Poi lentils, one of the really delicious lentils. Very easy to cook. All I've done with these ones is I took 100 gram of poi lentils and I've soaked them for about 3 hours thereabouts. Then cooked them in some very lightly salted water until they're tender. Drain them off and cool them down. That's all it takes. And sometimes it's a good idea to even cook a surplus of them. They freeze very well and just take them out as you need them and mix whatever you want. With this little dish, I'm using a couple of nice finely diced onions, and I'm going to render and cook those down till they're almost caramelized and with a little bit of coconut oil, and that's going to give a lovely kind of oniony caramelized taste in with the poi lentils, which is, you know, almost going to give a kind of almost a meaty kind of that lovely fried oniony taste and really kind of bring on this dish. And I'm going to kind of make a very simple little kind of a pancake here. I'm going to make it with beetroot. The beetroot, what I've done is took about 100 gram beetroot and I've grated it. I peeled it and grated it on a fine grater. And into that, I'm going to use one of those great ingredients, ground flour, which is ground chickpea flour. Very high protein flour and very, very versatile. I'm going to add the 100 grams in with my beetroot. And then what I'm going to do is, these will be like a little kind of a pancake. So just mix them around, add a pinch of salt, a little bit of olive oil. Now I've said about, I'll use roughly 250 grams of warm to hot water in this. I'm just going to mix that around first with the ground flour. But it's hard to give an exact amount of water with this kind of a recipe because what you're trying to do is make a nice pancake batter. Sometimes the ground flour might have a higher humidity, sometimes it'll have a lower humidity. So you have to be able to judge it up again. So warm water, I'm using about 200 mils of warm water into this. But I'm not going to add it all in, I'm just going to put it in, mix it around. And kind of, if you know that kind of pancake batter kind of consistency, I want kind of a relatively thick consistency. Another thing with the ground flour is when you put in the water, you'll find that it'll be quite light. Then you come back in a few minutes and it'll all have thickened up in you. So just take that into account as well. So this is kind of like a little kind of a fritter batter, and it'll kind of, and we're just going to cook these like a little kind of like a little drops going or something on the pan, just to accompany with the lentils and just something to put the lentils on top of and kind of give a nice kind of interest to the dish. So I've kind of got a nice kind of a pouring kind of consistency with my little batter here. If it thickens up a little bit more and it comes almost solid, just add a little bit more water. But that's the kind of, just kind of a light pouring consistency. Not light, you want it fairly thick. And before I cook it, I'll give a nice kind of close up on this and you can kind of see the texture that I'm looking for. But that's the first job done out of the way, and now it's only a case of I want to cook my lentils, which will be pretty quick to cook because the lentils themselves are pre-cooked. So for my lentils, onto a nice little pan, I'm going to add about a teaspoon of coconut oil. I'm going to add all my onions in at the same time. I'm going to add a pinch of salt onto that. I'm just going to cover those up and let them cook nice and slowly till they get nice and browned and caramelized and very rich in color. So I'm just going to put those onto a lower heat just to let them cook away. But now, as my onions are just cooking away here, I'm going to just make my little pancakes. Very nice. Now, here's my batter that I've made. As you can see, that's the kind of consistency I'm looking for. A nice kind of a runny consistency, a little bit of warmth. Makes it a little bit more kind of, I suppose, sticky is the right word, and allows you to kind of just form it into a nice little pancake very easily. So into a nice warm pan, not too hot, you don't want it scorching, but you don't want it too cool either, because you want to be able to preserve some of the colour of this nice beetroot. So you don't want it smoking hot. I'm going to just put a nice tablespoon or two of my little batters down. Good non-stick pan is well worth investing, and cook a couple of batches of these little these pancakes. So just let them cook away themselves there, and take your time, and when they kind of become dry on one side, then you can just flip them over very easily. And that beetroot, you get this lovely, really interesting, bright looking little pancake. So I haven't allowed those just cook for a few minutes, and as you can see, they're starting to dry up on one side a little bit. So I'm just going to flick those over, very easy. But the lower heat, you see, I want to keep that lovely, vibrant color on these. So I don't want to over fry it. So nice low temperatures. If your pan is starting to fry a bit too much, just turn it off and just kind of control heat accordingly. And just let those form into those little kind of pancakes, and you know, really rich and really interesting looking. Let them cook away themselves. And then when they're nice and dry on both sides, they're ready. Just pop them off. Put them on a plate separately, let them cool down, or hold them a little bit warm. And then I'm just going to cook off the rest of them. Again, lovely kind of interesting little thing. Not much to go wrong. And interestingly, that there's no egg needed in this, because the gram flour itself is a lovely high protein content, and it forms great fritters and any of these kind of foods. Again, it's one of those kind of storeroom covered ingredients that everybody should really consider having. Now, having kind of get a nice little bit of colour on my onions, develop a nice little bit of flavour and rusticness. Into that now, I'm going to add my garlic and my chopped chilli. I left the seeds in my chilli. I like the little bit of extra spice. And you don't have to use as much chilli or garlic, of course. At this stage, you don't want to really add any more oil into the pan. It's tempting, but if you if you find your pan is a little bit on the dry side, add about a tablespoon of water, and that'll just kind of get that life into the pan again. Next up, at the same time, I'm going to add my peppers and my cherry tomatoes. Very quick dish there at this point. Just going to pop a lid on that and just let them kind of render down and cook just for a few minutes. Just keep an eye on them as they're cooking. Now then, as your peppers are just cooking and rendering down with those onions, getting that lovely kind of developed, kind of lovely, kind of continental kind of flavour into this, for want of a better description. I'm now going to add in all my lentils. Again, it's a little bit dry. Add a splash of water, a couple of tablespoons. And just let them all cook down nicely. Just going to pop the lid on that. And develop up and let the flavours all develop into the lentils then nicely. Now as that's just cooking into this lovely, tasty lentil dish, I'm now just going to add my chopped rosemary and oregano. You could use dry, but they're never going to really be quite as vibrant. But most of these fresh herbs are quite easy to get nowadays. And it's just a case of just checking your seasoning a little bit. You can add a little bit of salt, pepper in here. And that is pretty much that dish complete. Just a case of just checking your flavour. And there's really not much more to do to that. So, and then just to plate this up, I'm going to take my typical little plate. I'm going to get a couple of my farinas. These lovely beetroot pancakes that I had made. I'm going to spoon over a generous few of this nice lentil dish. Very, very simple. And then to finish, a generous amount of pomegranate seeds on top, just to kind of really make that colours and all the vibrancy pop. And then the very, very last thing is a drizzle of olive oil. And that's it. Nice little lentil dish and little ground flour farinas.